Welcome to episode 186 of the Hunting Party Podcast. This is Euripides, and this is my last show.
And I'm Dark Brew from thebrewhall.com and the Brew Hall on Twitter. And boy, another one of these as Ali calls them, Saturdays.
And I'm Arth.
wrong with a Saturday.
And I'm Arth from the Warcraft Hunters Union.
And I'm Alexander from the Hunting Party Podcast. And I'm not going anywhere.
Awesome. And today is Saturday, September the 14th, 2013. And if you want to participate in the chat room and have your name read on the air poorly, just create a cool huntery name and join in the fun.
Speaking of reading things poorly, we are joined in the chat room today by Aldo Rania, Alexander, Arthu, wait, I'm reading my own names, Aurelius Banya, Blade Wisp, BM Jager, Dark Brew, dang it, I'm reading you guys too, Alapide Gobal, Great Hunter Chiame, hard to read. I just got that one. It's like hard to read. Just got it. Havtor, Kofoilin, Lagerwolf, Liriana, Miv Gavump, Miv Trogs.
Those are my favorites.
Knight Stormrage. Well, those are the default ones they give you if you don't put in another name. Yeah, those are the worst. Knight Stormrage, Omagrin, Slugslinger, Tokudred, and Warvinny. Our lovely moderator, as always, is Ollie Sonder, who will rank your questions by. Here's what we want today. We want ideas for new aspects. This is somewhat self-serving for the HCERP that's been up on the WHU, and we also talked about it on the podcast last week, but one of the first articles that is going to go up is I want to save aspects, but that's not going to happen unless we expand on it in some cool ways. So I want ideas for aspects. You can send in your questions to Ali in a private message by left-clicking her name, selecting PM, and then typing in the new tab. Or if you maybe don't want your question answered, you can send it to huntingpartypodcast@gmail.com.
I think we even have a program just to go straight to the spam folder at this
No,
point.
we read them all. That's the worst part. We read them all. We're like, oh man, I got a good response to this, but we don't reply because we're like, we'll get to it in the show. And then we don't.
Oh, apparently Michelle Morrow just tweeted, no, #sadness about you quitting.
Aw, that's sweet.
Yeah, and aspect. That's a good question about aspect. You know what? I want aspect of the podcast host, and you just click it, and it summons a emergency host to fill in for the show.
That'd be
people
beautiful.
leave.
That would be awesome. And so a few things to clarify. The show must go on, and it will. I'm not going to sing that, but you know what? No, I'm not going to sing that. But Dark Brew and Arth, for now, are probably going to be looking for somebody to replace me, somebody better looking, with better personal hygiene, and less of an affinity for feral druids. But yes, if you are interested in, they've got a few people that they're probably going to talk to. So, but if you have any ideas or recommendations, feel free to get in touch by email.
Yeah, absolutely. You can talk to any of us. I'm always available through the WHU. I read all the comments. You can also email me at arthwhu@yahoo.com or the Hunting Party email, which does get read.
It does get read.
It does.
Contrary to what I said in the intro.
Yes, it does. We do.
It doesn't get read on the air, but it does get read.
It does get read. But yeah, like you were saying, yeah, we're not ready to kind of call it a show just yet. We still have some unfinished business to take care of here, I think. So we plan to we're going to keep on going as long as we could. But yes, I mean, you leaving Euripides is certainly, I mean, a big hit. When Frostheim left, we were able to get the little goblin paddles out and shock us back to life. But this one's a little bit tougher.
Well, I mean, I suppose it's all sort of part together. I mean, if it hadn't been for the awesomeness that is all the people in this community, I probably, if I was just playing this game for this game, I've been playing this game for a long time.
Yeah.
I probably, and I don't have this, I'm a little bit flighty. I don't have this kind of stamina normally. I think I probably would have, wandered off to some other MMO or maybe gone, played more chess or something. But it's, the community keeps on drawing you back in, and anyway, so it's. I think it's time. I laid it out in the blog post. Speaking of which, on outdps.com, the very first post you'll see right now is my announcement that I am retiring, and a picture of a certain, if you want to call it spoils from a bet. It is a legendary friendship bracelet. Legendary.
On, I might add, a conspiratorially hairy wrist.
I was gonna, you know what?
Scandalously hairy wrist.
This bothered me more than it should. I made fun of Frost for this once, and obviously I don't go, taking pictures of my wrists and putting them on the internet like Frost did. So I took the opportunity, but I kind of like jokingly thought to myself, what if somebody finds out? And then that's been nagging at me for the last 4 years. Now, 4 years later, I'm coming out of the closet. I have surprisingly hairy wrists.
Oh God, no.
Well, look at the photo. It's just about the same level of hair as Frost. I mean,
it's very similar. I have to say, yes.
And he took about 4 years of abuse from this. So, and now here's the thing: I don't actually have a druid. I don't play a feral druid at all. So, I don't feel that guilty about it. But if you go, and
see, I didn't know that. It was so ingrained. That stereotype for you was so ingrained that I had no idea you didn't play a feral druid.
I know, right? And but you know what though? If you go in 10 years and you just talk to a random sampling of listeners, 10 years later, hey, you remember Euripides and Frostheim? What would you say you remember about each of them? They say, I don't remember much about Euripides, but didn't Frostheim have hairy arms?
Yeah.
So that's I think that means I win.
At least Frostheim's in-game item talks about uncommonly good-looking, not...
It does, yes.
Not like, if the hairy wrist had made it into his personal in-game item, the cloak, that would have been the final dagger.
That's what I think we talked about. That's what it should have been. It should have been like a pair of bracers, hairy wrist bracers.
Oh, that's right.
Like hair stuck in the bracers.
Oh no, just bracers made out of hair.
Okay, yeah.
Or just call it, I mean, maybe that's, and speaking of, like, Frost, hopefully maybe we can see what we can do to get you something in-game. I mean, you won't be there to enjoy it, but even not just for hunting, I mean, you are also probably more accomplished with your gold making, the whole auction house thing.
Yeah, I was never as good at raiding as, when I really just got started, I was in a pretty competitive guild, but I was on a smallish server. But yeah, really, I came into my own when I started doing the auction house stuff, and that's I guess where I'm just better at it. I'm more of a thinker than a twitcher, really. My rotational, I used to watch this guy that we raided with Raid. Well, you probably remember Dark Brew. We talked about him a few times. We had actually a couple of guys that we played with that were just phenomenally good hunters, like way better than me.
Yes, yeah.
I don't understand how they do it.
You're talking about Beersen, I think.
That's one of them. Yeah,
that's one of them. Well, he was a darn good hunter. I mean.
Yeah, well, he was good at anything he plays. I think it's just something about maybe the age, or maybe just growing up playing video games of a certain type versus another type. And I mean, I could math it out. I could think it through. I could come up with a pretty reasonable semblance of a pretty good performance, and people would be like, "Wow, you got everything." But I don't, because. You take some guy like Beersen as an example, who would show up and like gear maybe 70% as good as mine and do literally 50% more damage than me and not die and somehow save the tank and save a wife or something. Like he was just like phenomenal. Like so, I was never as good as at the actual mechanical, twitchy, tactical part of the game as I was at the sort of sitting back and thinking about it. And that's something that rewards you more in the auction house than in a raid.
Yeah. So maybe the next expansion, just put. Folks from Blizzard are listening, just put an auctioneer called Euripides in there and give him like a little untextured cube mini pet that just hovers over his shoulder.
Untextured cube. Yeah. I was a big fan of that. I think at one point they made an untextured cube by accident. I tamed one, which turned into something else. If I'm misremembering, it was a crocodile.
Maybe.
No, it was a slime that acted like a crocodile. It wasn't quite untextured.
Yeah, that's what it was. It was only available for a short period, and then they got rid of. You either couldn't tame it or something. But
yeah, they changed it.
They just changed everybody. It changed the model back into a crocodile, which is what it should have been.
Oh yeah.
I think.
Was that one of the? That might have been one of the ones from the quests in Sholazar Basin, which had some little spirit creatures that they inadvertently made tameable.
Yeah.
So they had like I think the slime model, the Chimera model was another one, or Hydra or something. Not Chimera, Hydra.
It was in Sholazar though. You're right about that.
Oh yeah, memory like an iron trap.
What happens 9 years of this thing? I'm afraid one of these days I'm just going to go into all my characters and do a slash plate and just have a heart attack.
Don't do it. Don't do it. I did that, and look what's happening to me. It's not pretty. Now, I spend a lot of time AFK in front of the auction house, so I looked at my slash plate, and I said, okay, it's not that bad. But then
maybe take 70% of that or something, you know.
That's the worst part. That was so pretty bad.
That's the thing. I mean, I'll do that. I'll look at those numbers, and then I'll start justifying it. So, well, what else have I done? Well, I went to work 8 hours a day. So, yeah, my job was well, I spent, you know, if I did a slash plate at the office, with the time at the office, it would certainly exceed that, you know. Sleeping, eating, you know, I'd be doing all those types of things. Like, what?
If we did a slash plate on almost anything, we would probably just fall over and like, oh my god, I spend this much time, you know, taking a poop. Holy crap.
Oh no.
Think of all the hours you've spent doing this podcast, let alone Dark Brew, who does all the research as well every week.
I know, yeah. That alone is quite a yeah. So it's, you know, slash podcast.
Speak for yourselves. I show up and I bullshit with you guys.
Yeah.
I remember when I started doing this, we didn't have the whole one-take mentality. I also had absolutely no idea how to chop together audio. I don't know if you remember Fageless.
Yes. Well, I don't know if the listeners do. Fageless was, he started out as a listener, and then became our producer, for lack of. He was Allie before Allie, I guess.
That's right.
Yes.
And specifically, I think his handle was BM for life. He actually came back briefly and then left again, but I think he left again. But the reason that he actually looked me up was because my job on the first couple of episodes on the audio was so terrible. Like, I had read up a couple of things on how to podcast. They're like, oh, download this program, and you might want to do something called compression and something else called, and I'm just like, you know, I started playing around with it, and I'm just, oh man, don't ever go back and listen to episode 1. It's just, it's a crime against your ears. And
well,
so,
and
yeah,
I knew coming in like episode 120 that I was going to be a lot more raw than you guys because I hadn't really done podcasting. So I have a different mic than what I began with because it softens my voice a little bit. It was very harsh when I started, and there were some things that I did that just sounded bad that wasn't working, and I was also typing a lot because I wasn't used to, you know, that juxtaposition. I wasn't thinking it was going to pick it up so much. There's like my first 3 or 4 episodes, there's like all kinds of random typing, and I'm like, oh, it's not me, it couldn't be me, oh wait, it was me.
I was wondering about that. No, it's fine, it all works out for the best. Podcasting is a skill that comes gradually.
Yep.
I guess where I was going with this is
I'm still waiting for that skill to kick in here, by the way. So gradually meaning like 4 years and counting.
4 years and counting, man.
It has been 4 years, yes. That I can't believe that. That sort of shocked me. It's like, has it really been? And I was like, yeah, 2009.
Yeah, that's insane.
So, chat room, if you haven't figured it out, we're kind of treating this like we are going to get to some Hunter stuff, but it isn't a huge news week, so we're kind of treating this as Yuri's going away party. So it's going to be more of a nostalgia trip than maybe usual. But
yeah. I actually decided not to suggest playing the Hunter drinking game just because that's really more of Frost's thing. I didn't want to take that away from him in case it ever comes up again.
Well, we'll save that for the final when, you know, because someday we'll have to end. You know, the show will just it's WoW will end itself. You know,
hey, you never know. WoW, well, you know what? I think you can still play EverQuest 1. Just pointing that out.
Yeah, well, Project Titan, we'll just load our characters into it and
there you go.
You know, continue on to level 250. And
didn't they? I thought I heard they had canceled that.
Really? Oh, I don't know.
I don't know if it was canceled, but it was certainly put on hold for lack of, whatever progress they made. I think they decided to reboot. I guess is a good.
I'm assuming if we don't hear anything from it out of BlizzCon here coming up, that like we shouldn't be thinking about it for a while. So,
I wouldn't think we'd hear that. BlizzCon. I would think this BlizzCon, for as far as WoW is concerned, is just going to be the next expansion in the movie, probably.
Right, the movie. Yeah, I forgot about that. But yeah, no, I think I remember hearing somewhere. I thought it was publicly. But Titan, they just took a look at it and they said, we can only make good games. If we make anything that's not a good game, we're gonna ruin the company. And right now, this isn't and probably cannot be made into a good game. So reboot or cancel or backburner or something.
Yeah.
Right. Well, they have
Hearthstone.
They have the coffers to do that. You know, they can they can afford to have that strategy. So that's probably a good thing long term.
They are printing money with Hearthstone, by the way. People are getting into the beta, and they're being told that any money they spend in beta, they're going to get to keep.
Oh, really?
Once it goes live.
I'm not. Uh-huh.
Yes.
That's like I haven't tried it. I haven't really gone in. Haven't really applied to be in the beta. But people really seem to like the game. I don't know. I mean, it's a trading card game, right? Like a virtual trading card game. I don't even.
It's like Magic the Gathering. Okay, here's the thing. Magic the Gathering is something I'm not in. Like all the classical nerd archetype games that formed so many of our initial what got us into this stuff in the first place. Magic the Gathering, Dungeons and Dragons, Settlers of Catan. I wasn't into any of that.
Yeah, me neither.
The kids.
I played some Settlers. But it was.
Everybody has.
I did. I did a lot more with Risk, Axis and Allies, a few of the other strategy games. Settlers I wasn't totally into, but I did play a few times.
Sure, but you were playing. The point is, the kids that were in my school that were playing all that were way too cool to hang out with me. So I didn't. I honestly, I never got into Magic the Gathering as an example. But almost every single other person I know who likes video games and talks about them or writes about them or reads them or talks to me about them at work, whatever, they can all say, oh yeah, Magic the Gathering. Okay, yeah, I used to play that. I invested a lot of my parents' money in that kind of thing.
Someone in the chat room just said they're playing right now with a Murloc Druid deck. I don't know how the game works. This is not something that I've invested any time into. So I'm just imagining Murlocs turning into some sort of Murloc bear hybrid. It's a weird visual.
Yeah, and that's what it sounds like they did is they created basically a card game that's really, really well designed because they are masters at designing games, competitive or cooperative, whatever, that are compelling. They've got that game design loop that people keep on talking about. Well, really, mostly Frostbite kept on talking about, where the more you do it, the better you get at it. It allows you to do more of it, kind of thing. And they are exceptionally good at building things like that, and they did that with a world that they're comfortable with, World of Warcraft. So people are sitting there. It's not like they're rediscovering all these new names and faces. It's also a little bit different than the old trading card game because this is something that you can really sort of sit down and play on your computer and not have to carry around with you.
Yeah.
Like that. Although, did you guys see? I guess it must have been 4 or 5 posts ago now, but Penny Arcade did a little thing about the beta.
No.
I know. Was it good or bad? Or
It was very good. He's like, okay, this is just flat out the best game I've ever played, or something like that. But Blizzard, I swear to God, if you make me go back and kill Moros in order to get this card I want, God damn it, I'll do it. But I hate you so much. I'm like, oh, wait a minute. What if they tie it into World of Warcraft that way? And yeah, I just read that the other day when I was catching up on my reading, and I got a good laugh out of it. Because Penny Arcade doesn't typically talk about Blizzard stuff that much. They tend to talk about their own stuff a little bit. But anyways. So yeah, I have let's see, announcements. Yuri is retiring. Okay.
Yeah, that was it. A couple other things too. I want to toss out there for the audience. Like I said, I was looking back, you're retiring made me think about this, and I wanted to check and see if I had all of our copies of all of our episodes, and they're out there if you're looking to get our back episodes. The best source right now is to actually go to your site, the outdps.com, and you painstakingly uploaded them all when our initial hosting site kicked us out because it was too full and too expensive. But
not too full, just too expensive. I think because I was actually renting it from somebody else who had a VPS. Yep. And he just said, yeah, I just got a pretty big bill. I'm going to have to go ahead and ask you to stop.
Yeah. Almost very little warning on that, but we got everything. And so, but there are still some missing episodes out there, which I can't find any reference
25.
to. Yeah, 25, episodes 25, 28, and 29. And it was during a period of time where we got way behind on publishing episodes to the point where we ended up publishing things we started publishing things way out of order. So I'm not sure what happened to those, but if any of you out there
was live only. It was another robot fiasco. This was a long time ago, but I had basically forgotten to press save.
Okay, that makes sense.
28 and 29, though, I don't remember what happened with them.
I don't either. 93 was one we're missing, but we know that was the Ask Mr. Robot live episode where we forgot to record. So 90. But 28, 29, I'm not sure about. Like I said, I have show notes for all of these, so I have an idea of what was talked about. But
Yeah, so I guess what we're saying is if any of our listeners have any of these in their iTunes folder, feel free to save a copy as MP3 and let us know where we can
let
pick
us
it
know.
up.
Yeah.
Put it back in the archives where it belongs.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Otherwise-
I really don't know why. I'm not even that good at this.
I have some saved, but I'll be honest. There's like a few of my favorites from way back, not any of those. And then since I started joining you guys, all the ones, since I'm vaguely narcissistic like that, I have all the ones that I've been on saved so that I can listen to them again and again later on.
Oh, for sure. I mean, it's something it's cool.
It's fun. When I first started writing for the WHU, I was like, man, maybe I could be on the podcast one day. And of course, you get there and it's like, oh, this is it. But
I know exactly, right? I mean, that's sort of the way it was. I mean, I'd always wanted to do.
People imagine. Sorry, go ahead.
I said even before I started, the Brew Hall blog, I thought, having a podcast would be fun because I was listening to other WoW podcasts. There was no Hunter podcast at that time, but certainly listening to the Instance, every week is like, boy, that looks like a lot of fun. And of course, as you listen, you always feel like you know as much or more than the people talking on the show, right?
Which isn't always the case.
No,
but usually is for this one at least.
I actually,
somebody hears me talk, they're like, I know more than this idiot. Right.
Yeah.
I actually definitely picked the wrong expansion because, I'm raiding a lot less right now. Like, probably Wrath would have been the best time, and then early Kata. And I was also, at that time, leading raids, so I was learning so much about the other classes that, things change so much. And, I mean, just look at the Hunter changes since Wrath. And so that level of change has happened to a lot of different classes. So I knew a lot. I could talk about, like, our place in the game and stuff that was going on, and, in relation to other classes. Right now, I'm pretty tunnel-visioned on the Hunter class. About the only other one I can still talk about with any sort of authority would be Discipline Priests, but, nobody really cares about them, apparently. So,
Although I understand that their representation in
PvP
PvP is pretty strong. I thought I saw someone on Twitter post some information about that.
They've been killing it. Actually, on the I did an analysis of like the numbers of each class and each spec that were in certain. I did the raid and the PvP ones. Now for raid numbers, it's a little bit harder to tell because like the percentage of paladins in top level raids doesn't necessarily mean they're doing the best on the DPS or this or that, But in PvP, you can look and say, holy crap, 7 of the 10 top comps in 3s involve a Beastmaster Hunter, which was absolutely true at one point. And the only other one that showed up nearly as much as Beastmaster Hunters was some combination of Shadow Priest and Discipline Priest, which collectively were doing better than anyone, Beastmaster Hunters included, in 5.2 and 5.3. So yeah, they've actually been very strong pretty recently. I don't know about PvE as much. I know that's a different beast altogether, especially with healing. But Discipline Priests have been doing well, and Shadow Priests are always doing well. If Hunters suddenly disappeared, I would just tell everyone, my advice would be to keep your ranged DPS class, go over to Shadow Priest, because they've never had a bad expansion.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I don't like them because I don't play one. I've only ever had to fight them. Or
I don't either. I don't like them either. Like I have my priest, and I've tried to play Shadow, and it's just like, well, what am I doing? I have a hunter, But but in terms of like raid representation and DPS numbers, like they've constantly been solid.
Yeah, they have. I remember back in BC, they were. I think it was Shadow Priests. They were not really viable, but they had to be brought anyways because of their mana battery properties.
Yeah. That was a big thing back then too.
Yeah, so it was like you would have this totally undergeared, unprepared, possibly unskilled priest playing with these guilds that just they'll take anyone because they have no other options, and any priest that was back in the day when you really had to stack your comp. They've changed that a little bit, just a little bit. So it's about halfway through the show. Do you want to talk a little bit about your expansion revamp project?
Sure. Well, we have a couple. Well, I'm going to jump down to listener Q&A because I don't know that there's any real suggestions, but there's some funny. Night Storm Rage writes, aspect of the crazy cat lady, Cobra Shot becomes Cat Shot, Serpent Sting becomes Cat Sting, Explosive Shot becomes Explosive Cat,
Oh no.
Black Arrow becomes Black Cat. You can probably see where this is going. Cats. As for the question, he also adds a question, he or she. I haven't played a hunter in over a year. Why should I play a hunter again?
Okay.
Wow.
That's okay. First of all, cat stuff is pretty inventive. I gotta say that. I gotta chuckle out of that.
Cat.
I can't condone the explosive cat. I cannot condone that.
I can entirely. That's the funniest sounding thing ever. Anyway, go ahead.
Lock and load. Bam, bam, bam. So, okay, if you haven't played a hunter in a year, why should you play a hunter again? I know it may sound a little bit odd to have somebody who's actually on his way out explain this, but I'll take a crack at it. Hunters are, by far, the best and most fun and entertaining class to play in this pretty good game. This game is still, it's as good now or better than it's ever been, and it's assuming that's what I'm leaving, not the hunter class. No matter what I do from now on, I'm going to be thinking of it in the context of a World of Warcraft hunter, which may not make a lot of sense. Like I'm, be sitting there at work doing something to do with the job, and I'll be like, looking at this as a World of Warcraft hunter, this is what I think. But no, that said, the reason that you would want to do this is because you have taming challenges that nobody else has. Blizzard keeps on putting out content for just us. Things that, even though they're not going to give you a current advantage, it's something that you can totally get into. Like, go back to Cataclysm and go and take a look at all the different, really hard to find cool stuff that they put in there for you.
The pets have always been one of the bigger draws of the class, I think. In general, I think that's something that brings a lot of people to it.
That's right. Not even just collecting rare skins of existing. Some of these things are you have to use a special ability in order to tame this guy. Even if you find him, you've got to kite him around for an hour or something. I've never actually looked at them myself. I was more into raiding and PvP, which brings me to item number 2: raiding and/or PvP. If you like either, you can do either as a hunter exceptionally well.
Yes.
We spend a lot of time arguing in this, podcast about hunter balance and which spec is better and are we first or second overall, or But the reality is, hunter is a pure DPS class, and in raids, there's almost always a hunter, especially in a 10-man. So if you like to raid, doing it on a hunter is probably one of the best ways to do it. Not just because you got lots of damage, and it's because of things like the ability to disengage, the ability to trap, the ability to trank, the ability, all of these other things that an experienced, skilled hunter can do that you can use to impress your guild friends, or just flat out progress your group. And lastly, I would say if you are interested in PvP, hunters have been pretty darn good this expansion for PvP. Yeah. I'm not going to find out how they are in 5.4. But I can say everything up to 5.4, it's just been ridiculously easy and fun. Like, it's nice being able to just walk around and crush almost anything without it. Like, 1-on-1, nobody could beat a hunter. 2-on-2, 100 teams were almost always, winning. 3-on-3, they were still overpowered, but not quite so overpowered that it's not like every single top 3's comp was including a hunter. But most of them were, like you were saying, in 5.2 and 5.3.
Yeah.
Now in 5.4, we'll see how that turns out, but it's still, we haven't been toned down so bad that we're going to be too low. So, anyways.
No, and one of the nice things about hunters and raiding, we can feign death out of almost any wipe, so you should be saving on repair costs and being able to just res the entire rest of your raid there. So that's a nice little.
Yes, it is a nice little
benefit that we can do.
Yeah, and the rest of the raid hates you, but then you're resing them, so they're like, all right, fine, whatever. And it's not as big a deal as it used to be, I don't think, about avoiding repair costs. But at the same time, it's nice not to die a billion times and have that little leg up on the rest of your.
Well, our guild used to pay for the repair costs, and then everybody just started everyone abused the heck out of that thing. So we turned that off. So yeah, once you turn that off, you see the
I think
gold just getting sucked away.
I think that's as good an answer as any, though, Yuri. I'd have a hard time answering it personally because I recognize my own bias. So
Right.
I don't know how I'd answer it outside of, I read that and I was like, why wouldn't you? But that's not an answer. That's just me going, holy crap, why would you play anything else? But I realize that's not a rational argument that I'm going to convince anyone with. So
if it's
I don't know.
emphatically enough, you can I learned a long time ago, rational, logical arguments are not what convinces people. I thought they were. In writing, sometimes it is, and certainly in academic circles or business circles, but less so in business. Really what convinces people is the person who speaks the best, or is the most emphatic, or the most popular.
Yeah. I would actually point to the community. The theory crafting community is unreal. The sort of the everything that we had done with the WHU and that still exists, you can go still join that guild, and it's just all hunters helping each other out and doing cool stuff, and there's still 5-mans that happen, and they run old content, and it's just all hunters. It's wonderful. And things like, Banya's in the chat room, and she has her pet site based on her career as a zoologist, and you can go and you can go look at all these real world stats for animals and compare them in game to WoW, and then there's pictures and comparisons, and you can find where they are in game and pick out specific pets that you want to tame. And
I don't think I've ever smiled more than when I saw Banya's site for the first time. That is just one of the most awesome concepts.
And there's Pectopia, and so there's a really cool community around the hunter class, and I know there's communities for most classes, but a lot of them aren't nearly as robust as what the hunter community has become, and I don't think. Frostheim helped spearhead a lot of that at the WHU, but it's not going to go away since he's gone. So it's just going to change form. There's still so much that happens that people love about the hunter class. So the community surrounding it makes it really cool. And you mentioned earlier that you probably wouldn't have been playing if not for the hunter community, and that's absolutely true of me too. That's what's kept me in the game. All the fun stuff that we've done with the WHU guild, the all hunter raiding. Just the events that we've done, the world kills, the world boss kills, all this stuff is just so much beyond what is normally conceived of for the game, and it's so much fun. Yeah.
You're saying that your answer to that question is basically because of all that stuff that you just talked about, that doesn't exist for other classes. That makes a lot of sense.
You think about the all hunter raids we did that were doing in Cataclysm. With current content, and you think of classes like a druid, which can tank, heal, melee, and range DPS. They can play every possible role in the game, and you don't see them coming together and forming a raid group to try and take out content like that.
At one point back, and I want to say BC, early Rat, there was a guild of all druids that would raid content, but it still wasn't. It was just it was a guild. It wasn't sort of a community movement.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point. So in addition to all the in-game, we can raid, we can PvP, all that stuff, you've got this, if you ever want to go and take down some sort of current boss with nothing but hunters in your group, that is a possibility.
Yeah, absolutely.
And extreme soloing, if you want to go back and solo things that were never designed to be soloed.
That was part of the fun. I was so upset. We almost killed 2 bosses in Dragon Soul, and we should have killed 2 bosses in Dragon Soul. We only got the 1 down, but that was when Dragon Soul was still, and it was normal mode. It wasn't LFR or any of that BS. It was normal mode, and we had another one too. I don't want to go into it at length, but we should have had 2 down, and an all hunter team definitely could have had two bosses down in Dragon Soul when it was still the end game tier.
We should resurrect this. Now we have cross realm. What do you call it? Cross realm flex rating.
Yeah.
I think flex raids, they're designed to be not quite as hard as normal modes, but a heck of a lot harder than LFR.
Right.
They say you can't ignore mechanics. Well, I would like to challenge that assumption. Tanks and healers are for the weak. If we can't do it with hunter pets and rezzing them, then it doesn't matter if it can be done.
Right.
Yeah, and the pets are a great perk to the hunters too, in this regard too, that you can have tanking pets in versus DPS pets, so you can kind of jostle them around based on your needs. If you're up against some tough mobs, maybe you're not quite geared enough, and you need a little more protection, you can break out a tanking pet and increase your survivability in that regard a little bit, which is nice.
Yeah. So,
sorry, Bonnie had she was submitted something by Q&A here. Okay, no questions, just a joyous for the Horde. New War Chief Joyce made my day. Banya, not for the Horde. You're on the Alliance now.
By the way, Euripides was made the new war chief. That's why she's excited. That's the real reason why he's leaving. He is the new war chief. And I should have threw in a spoiler alert there, which I'm
excited about the new war chief as well. I mean, should we?
No, let's not spoil it.
No, we won't spoil it. I guess. Well, I don't know.
Let's not spoil it for a few reasons. One, because it's the Horde, not the Alliance, and it's not that important. Two, because in case there are any people misguided enough to think that it's a big deal, I don't want them to feel like they heard it from a bunch of yahoos on the internet before they got a chance to see it in game. So
when I did watch the cinematic because I don't care about seeing in game all that much. It's just
right.
I have actually gone and read synopsis for movies that I want to see.
Real? I would say I won't do that. I've done that before in the past, and it spoils the whole thing.
Yeah, I suppose, but typically, so that's not my first reaction when it's a movie I know I'm going to like. But if it's a movie I'm not sure I'm going to like, that's usually enough for me to know that I'm not going to like it.
Oh, there you have a good point. Yes, if it's that's true. I should probably qualify that too. If it's something that I'm really eager to see, and like Star Trek Into Darkness, for example, I really wanted to go see that when it came out this summer, and I stayed away from about pretty much any and every bit of information from there.
That was a really good movie, by the way.
Other than the official trailers, that's all I saw. So.
The guy that played the bad guy in that movie was
yes.
Yeah, he first of all, he has an awesome name. Second of all, he's going to be playing Julian Assange in.
I heard about that.
Yeah, I saw a picture of him casting for it. So he has this crazy long white hair, just like Assange does. I'm like, I didn't like when I first heard Benedict Cumberbatch, because he plays Sherlock, he plays the bad guy in Star Trek. He's got a certain look to him that I kind of already. That's what I expect, and then they're like this, but it kind of works in a way, even though his facial features don't really look anything like Assange. And Assange is obviously Australian. And this is
you're talking about Benefit Crumbly Punch, right? No, yeah, right. That
Crumbly Punch.
It's a
Cumberbatch.
It's an internet thing. Don't worry about it.
Oh, okay. Get off my lawn. No, I haven't actually heard Crumbly Punch yet.
No, there's basically you add anything that's 3 syllables and 3 syllables that begins with a B and C for the 2 words. Like you can say it, and people will understand you on certain websites if you're talking about Benedict Cumberbatch. So you can just
okay.
burger porn cucumber, and they know who you're talking about.
Oh, nice. Pretty random.
There's name generators out there for him now. So.
Oh, I have seen that.
Because he's got an insane fandom. They're called Cumber Bitches. And, yes, I'm completely serious. And so they come up with all kinds of craziness for him, and this was something that came out of the Cumber Bitch community.
Wow, there's a.
That almost has to be the title of the show right there. I'm tempted for that. I have to ruminate on that one.
Oh, goodness gracious. Yeah, so I named the picture of that friendship bracelet "Totally Worth It" .jpg. It's the little things that matter.
Yeah, and we'll post that when we do the show notes and things for this, or I might even put it as the background for the YouTube
nice
portion.
So
aspects.
Yes. Let's talk about that a little bit. We may as well try and contribute something to my last day.
Well, there's two things that I was batting around as the first article in this, and one of them is aspects. And so the idea is, I'm going to try to boil each one down to sort of a least common denominator that everyone can agree on. So aspects properly done can be really cool, and they should be saved, and they are savable, but we need to expand on them in nifty ways. So I'm actually on one of Keldul's at the Hunter DPS Dungeoneer website, one of his articles, and while I don't agree with each one, the overall gist of his article is wonderful, and he has a lot of individual ideas for aspects that could expand on it in ways that give us all kinds of different things that we can do through our aspects. So aspect of the pack, great. Something that we already have. But then there's others. So aspect of the spirit is one of his ideas. The hunter takes on aspects of the natural interdependent web of life, increasing his and the pet's health regeneration by an additional 2% every 2 seconds. So things like that would be situational. Aspect of the protector is another that he suggests. And party and raid members within 15 yards of the hunter take on protective aspects of the turtle, reducing damage by, he says, 20%, but also reducing movement speed by 40%. So some of them come with some interesting ideas here. And where I would sort of pump the brakes is, okay, let's have one that has a damage reduction or that has a healing increase, but I want to get away from citing exact percentages, because that's a balance thing. That's an internal Blizzard thing. So saying we want 2% every 2 seconds is a little bit limiting, but saying increases health regeneration by X amount every X seconds, and letting them fill in those totals so that it's a balanced ability, I think would be a little bit better. But some of these ideas are things that are cool and I think should be implemented and would make aspects awesome again.
I like some of those ideas.
Yeah.
The one thing I would say about aspects, though, is I would take any kind of damage boost out of the equation, because the moment you have something that busts your damage, that becomes the default choice, whenever possible.
But if they don't have that, then there's no meaningful choice. It's not like, let's say that they decided to make it like cooldowns, right? Like a damage reduction pulse. Like you put it a pulse and the next X number of seconds, everybody in that range damage is reduced by whatever amount. There would be no reason to ever not do that unless they gave it a cooldown. I don't think that's the direction. I think the whole idea of an aspect is it's something that you choose, and when it's like a stance. Once you're in it, you're always in it until you choose to go out.
Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, if they don't have a meaningful choice, like if they don't have a default, so to speak, then it just meant, then basically the people will pick a default that, and I guess they'll just try and make it so that everybody has one of each on, as opposed to, and at that point it just becomes sort of another buff that you look for.
Yeah. I don't think necessarily it would need to be a full buff, but probably hunter specific, and maybe a PvP one, a PvE one, or a few that could happen in different situations. Like, okay, I know this big damage phase is coming, but I don't need to move a ton, so it's unavoidable. So I'm going to go into the aspect of the protector I just mentioned, something like that, which I think would be cool.
Yeah, spec specific ones might be interesting to look at too. So give you something that applies benefits mostly survival, for example, or marksman or beast mastery might be another way to incorporate aspects. So,
and I linked the article in the chat room as well that I'm referencing here. And these aren't the only ideas, but these are just a few that I'm throwing out there because it's something Keldul's already written.
Yeah, one thing I saw. I think some of the aspect ideas that have been tossed around, or at least ability-wise, was like the old Eyes of the Beast ability, which will give you control of your pet, which people like and miss. I thought I saw a blue post in there, some remarks saying that they actually kind of deprecated some of that code from the game itself. So in other words, that if
it would require a lot of code writing at that point.
Yeah, they'd almost have to do it from scratch.
I wouldn't want that to come back exactly as it was, because it was better than what they replaced it with. However, it had the unfortunate side effect of the hunter just standing in place.
Yes.
I don't mind a damage reduction if you're going to do something like that, but there was too great a risk in most boss fights when you were trying it for something of your hunter dying while you were maneuvering your pet, or something horrible happening to your hunter while you were doing that. So there have been ways around that where, like, you merge with your pet or you ride your pet, and those are all possibilities. I don't know that would be an aspect thing anymore so much as a brand new mechanic, but there's ways to handle that. But something like Eyes of the Beast would be really cool to have again.
I forget, did they take out Eagle Eye? That's what they used to use a lot.
I thought they brought it back in some way. I don't know. I mean, there's certainly.
That's just the one where you look like from a distance. You
can look far in the distance, and
but you actually get a pointer, so you have to move your mouse over to where you want, and then that becomes your new center of vision, so you can kind of look around and see what's over there.
I remember it was like almost bugged at one point where you could put the thing and you could look off in the distance, and then you could call it up again from that point you were looking at, and just keep going further and further away, like almost infinitely.
I did not know that. That's awesome.
I didn't hear about that bug. I knew that you had to be able to hover over whatever it was you were looking at, and the client itself, the range of your in-game vision was often the limit for that.
Right, but the point that you were, when you were looking in the distance, however far off you were looking at, from that point I think you could call it up again.
That doesn't.
Okay, someone said Eagle Eye's still available, and I thought it was too. It's just something I never really used that much. But,
I use it all the time for PvP. Not recently, but more when I was doing a lot of random BGs.
Yeah. So I think aspects are something that can be saved. They're kind of on the chopping block right now, but it wouldn't be the hardest thing in the world to bring them back, even to a level that we had. I think in Wrath there was 4 or 5 decent choices that we. There was one that reduced damage. There was one that was basically your DPS one. There was one that gave the nature resistance buff that was more rare at the time than it is now, with various. So it was useful in certain situations, like, hey, just have the hunter bring it. It wasn't necessarily the ideal, but you could do it. So I think it's something. I love aspects, and right now they're pretty worthless.
Well, they're not worthless. They're just everything except aspect of the hawk is kind of pointless.
There's no choice. So
what I think would make sense is they could take this in 2 different directions. One of the things that they've said before is that I guess they wanted to try and change the way that so much of our stuff is automated. So like Hunter's Mark used to be automatically applied. I think I remember hearing that they just completely did away with it now.
Essentially, yeah. You have ones that things that automatically apply. I think it was
5.4 that they got rid of it.
Yeah, it was a glyph.
Yeah, there was a glyph. They've just baked it into several shots now, so you don't even apply Hunter's Mark.
So it still exists?
Hunter's Mark?
Okay. It does still exist.
Yeah, Hunter's Mark still exists. They made a change to they lowered, I think, the duration of it in PvP.
Oh, that's right. Okay.
But it still exists, but it's just applied now via your shots.
What I think they could do is make it so that aspect of the hawk is baked in. You're just whatever damage that you're supposed to do, you can do it without aspect of the hawk. Then make the aspect something that is not a permanent, it's always on, and whenever it's on, you do this. Make it something that you turn on as sort of a cooldown kind of thing. And when you turn on, maybe... well, I guess they could go either way. If they had sort of perpetual aspects, they could make one aspect that did what currently is done by that glyph, or I guess it's just baked in, where it applies your Hunter's Mark. And that could become... they could remove the damage component of that too, and make it so that basically in PvP, anything you were attacking can't re-stealth, which is pretty much the case right now anyways. They have to use a cooldown to get rid of your mark, then stealth.
Yeah.
Then they could put in another one that would do sort of maybe damage resistance for people around you, maybe like actual resistance, like the nature resist. But again, if it's passive and inconsistent, then there's the danger of just thinking and leave it on. Maybe they could have 2 types of aspects: one that you use once and then it goes on cooldown and it's like an ability, and then another one that is just up.
Right. That's actually a decent point right there, because one of the challenges here is that, okay, say you introduce a lot of these new aspects, Blizzard doesn't want aspect dancing in the way that we've had to do in the not-too-distant past. They don't want us jumping back and forth all the time and having it being this thing that we need to manage to min-max all the time. But something like, okay, these ones are on a cooldown and these ones are on a cooldown, or maybe you just have a certain number of aspects, but there's a 30-second cooldown, so it's not something that you can do on the fly in a fight. But say a particular damage phase is coming, you might be able to switch aspects for that, and then say it lasts 20 seconds and your cooldown's 30 seconds, so you're in that for a little bit longer, and then you switch back once it's over. Things like that would make it a little bit less twitchy. Which I think is what Blizzard wants to avoid with aspect dancing. So there's ways around that, and I think you mentioned something that might be a potential solution to that.
Yeah, I guess what they're really trying to do, the reason they gave us the ability to shoot on the move is so that nobody would ever have to macro in aspect of the fox to their steady shot.
Right.
And the whole idea of having to macro in an aspect of anything is just not. I think that's really what they're trying to avoid.
Yeah, I think they're with the macros. If you have to put it in a macro and not manage it in any real way, then it's probably not worth doing. Then they figure, well, we might might as well just give it to you in some other fashion. So
Yeah, and if
that's
they
kind of what they've done.
if they wanted to make aspects not be that but still be a choice, then it's like introducing yet another level of complexity at a time that they're trying to reduce that through the elimination of redundant abilities. So I don't know. I think aspects can be saved, but it would have to add something to the game or the class. It would have to add something to the class, but not in such a way that it made a situation they're trying to fix worse.
Right. Yeah, it's a tricky line, and maybe it's something that we suggest, and then Blizzard goes nah, and then they get rid of aspects. But I do think it's something that can be done responsibly and in a way that adds to the Hunter class without breaking any of the mechanics or imbalancing them that Blizzard wants to do.
Well, balance is easy to fix. They've shown us in the past that if the net result of any combination of abilities is imbalance, all they have to do is tweak a couple of abilities and then it's rebalanced. That's not actually an issue.
Sure.
I think the issue for them is they like to try and make it the flavor of what you have to do to accomplish your goal feel fun. And that's something that's kind of hard to define. So I can tell you that if I had to sit there and be thinking at all times, what aspect am I in? Should I be switching now or later? Like, let's say they made an aspect, when the first time I heard about this, I thought, oh, I wonder if it would make sense too. And then I came up with all kinds of ideas that just don't make sense. One of them, as an example, was make an aspect that causes your arcane shots to do less damage but take less focus. Basically reverting the old one, and that would allow you to be more flexible in the type of rotation you want and how many focus regen. And I'm just like, no, that's a terrible idea because that increases the level of complexity. Which they're trying to decrease by reducing the number of buttons. And I guess really, if an aspect is going to be something that you have on, that's the word aspect kind of feels like a perpetual until canceled kind of thing.
Yeah, like you said, like a stance almost.
Yeah, exactly, like a stance. Then I think it would make sense to, especially if they're already in the mode of having to try and not nerf us per se, but make us choose between certain things. Make that something that we can either choose to give us one type of advantage in PvP or another type of advantage in PvP, or one type of advantage in PvE or another type in PvE.
Yeah.
So the type of advantage I'm talking about could be something you already have. Like, let's say your shots automatically apply your hunter's mark. It could be something completely new. Let's say one of the aspects they used to have aspect of the beast that made you untrackable. Well, that's kind of useless because the only people who can track you are the hunters, and they don't need to. They can see you. But maybe they could find some other kind of PvP thing to put in there. For PvE, one of the aspects could be like just the run speed that we have, and the other one could be like a damage reduction or a resistance or something, and then you could kind of choose between the two of them. But again, if there's no default, if there's no one that's sort of, unless you have a good reason to be somewhere else, use this, then it doesn't really introduce choice. It just introduces, if you have two hunters, make sure we have one of each kind of thing.
Yeah, no, I agree. That's a good point, and something that you would want to avoid with this mechanic. So make sure that it doesn't exist like that, so it just becomes another buff, essentially. But yeah, I miss a lot of what we used to have. When I would solo or tank, a lot of times it was useful to have that aspect of the beast where a pet was doing extra damage, and aspect of the monkey used to be a thing.
Oh yeah.
Every aspect of the monkey.
That was a PvP. It was like less chance to be hit or something. It was cool.
Yeah, it gave you dodge essentially is what it
Yeah.
was, and then I think in Burning Crusade, it was one of the expansions. Then it became aspect of the Dragon Hawk, which combined a monkey and hawk together.
Originally, that was a tier ability to combine those two, I believe.
Yeah, it was like a talent. Yeah,
right. Yeah, it was a talent you had to take with one of your talent points.
It might have even been Beast Master. I think it was a Beast Mastery talent. I can't remember who had it.
That sounds right. That sounds
BM.
right. Yeah, it would make sense too, because aspects are the two different animals, so it would make sense in the Beastmaster tree. I think you're right on that. So there used to be these cool things that did give us some choice, and it wouldn't have to come back exactly like that. But there's things that could be done there, and I'd hate to see it just disappear because they can't think of anything creative to do with it, or they don't want to deal with it.
Yeah, no, that's true. I agree with that for sure.
So we're not going to win all these fights, but I think if we present it in a way where Blizzard looks at it and says, yeah, maybe, that's something that wouldn't be too hard, it wouldn't break anything necessarily, that we might be able to get it to happen.
Well, the key is it's got to be good, solid design. And for them, a lot of times they like to do it themselves. Like they like to come up with it themselves in order for them to actually implement something. But every so often, they come back and they ask the community, what do you want from us in terms of this? Like the elimination of minimum range is the example that we used when you first talked about this idea with me around. If we go and tell them unsolicited, this is what we found many people want, they might actually pay that some attention.
Yeah, the chat room's been pretty active here, and there's some that are just sort of, they're hilarious, but they're not necessarily, they wouldn't necessarily do anything. But I did see one here. So you're talking about, okay, this type of benefit or this type of benefit, and Chiame actually writes about one. So maybe there's one that sort of like Aspect of the Hawk, where it's sort of a flat damage increase, and then there's another that increases your cooldown regeneration by X%, or maybe reduces cooldowns by a certain percent, I think would be a similar way of stating that. So you're choosing between constant DPS increase or lowered cooldowns, which, if balanced correctly, could be determined, which one you want might be determined by like the length of the fight, whether you need things for certain burn phases. So that might be a legit choice there for DPS. There would probably be on most fights a correct answer. But depending on when you need that DPS, the cooldown one might be the right choice, even if your overall numbers were higher with the Aspect of the Hawk one. That's one cool example of creating the choice that Yuri was talking about there.
Yeah. Yeah, this is the kind of brainstorming we need. So I think, how is it that people are supposed to come up with these? There's a place in the WAG for them to comment?
Well, here's what's going to happen is they can comment on the Who now on the WHU. But so what's going to happen is I'm going to create this. The Who. Yeah, I always think of it as that. I'm going to create like an HCERP article on aspects, and I'm going to outline what we're trying to do, and then put some ideas and caveats and things like that. And then I'll say, hey, this article isn't done. This isn't going to be the finished product that we try to spread amongst the community and send to Blizzard and the whole deal. Say, hey, look at this. This is the initial draft. So at that point, you can email me, you can put things down in the comments beneath the article, and I'm going to look at all of them and try to take the ones that seem to have the most support or the ones that seem like they're the most feasible and incorporate them into the... Now, some people have already... I'm going to be pulling ideas from Keldul's article. People have sent me emails already. That's arthwhu@yahoo.com. There's Chiame's great idea here. I'll probably bring up something along those lines to talk about that sort of potential choice. So I'm already sort of collecting ideas from these discussions, but once I make the article, that isn't set in stone. It's going to be changed and added to based on feedback and input and further ideas. So if nothing else, you can just comment on the articles on the WHU as they come out, and if certain ones get enough support, they'll be incorporated into it.
Awesome. Well, I think that's the episode for today. It's been an hour.
Yeah,
it has. Well,
you want me to screw up my last outro?
Let's do it. If we must.
If we must. You have been listening to episode 186 of the Hunting Party Podcast. This is Euripides signing off.
And I'm Darkbrew from thebrewhall.com and the Brew Hall on Twitter.
And I'm Arth from the Warcraft Hunters Union.
And I'm Alexander from the Hunting Party Podcast.
You can check us out on iTunes, YouTube, Stitcher, and we have a RSS feed in the link in the show notes, I should say, if that's the kind of thing you use.
Yeah. Also, if you like us, please don't be shy about leaving us a review on iTunes or YouTube, especially one where you mention how uncommonly hairy Euripides' wrists are.
What is the possessive of Euripides? Is it
Euripides?
Yeah, it would just be S apostrophe, I believe. You just
not the proper nouns. That's
true.
Plural. Aha.
What do I know? I was just an English major in college. So.
I think it would be apostrophe. I think it would be apostrophe S.
The Queen's English.
You can submit a title for this week's show by emailing us at huntingpartypodcast@gmail.com and have your name mangled on air, probably by me.
All right, stay thirsty, my friends, and remember to drink your dark brew lager.
Don't forget to spay or neuter your feral druid.
For the Horde.
And since we now know that Euripides doesn't actually play a feral druid, we can say nerf feral druids and nerf Canada.
Yeah, nerf Canada, especially this. It was cold here today. You know, this is that time of year where you get that excess supply of cold air and you start exporting it our way. You know, that we need to stop that.
Yeah, no.
Oh,
no.
it's Euripidae. Euripidae.
Yeah, plural Euripidae.
Sounds like a song.
All my cold air are belong to you.
Okay.
Oh.
So Night Storm Rage, right? So you know how I changed the HERP to the HCERP so it wouldn't be the herp? Well, now when he sees the acronym, he said it makes me think of hardcore erotic roleplay.
Oh no, is that a thing? You did this on purpose, didn't you?
I did not.
You got to come up with. You got to be careful of the alphabet soup. If you say the HCERP at the WHU, you just lose about 70% of not letter illiterate. I guess this is the wrong word, but acronyms. Unless they spell something funny, or you got to be careful of that.
Yeah, as much as possible, I'm going to spell it all out. The Hunter Community Expansion Revamp Project. I really should have thought of a better name before I rolled it out.
Okay, you know what? For anybody who's still listening, here's your challenge. You have to come up with a name, a descriptive name that is obvious to somebody who plays the game but doesn't listen to the podcast or read the WHU, that describes what he's trying to do, and does it with fewer syllables or no acronym. So come up with another name for this, and submit it to him at earthwhu@yahoo.com. And if he likes it, he might take it.
Yeah. This is all sort of in flux, so I don't need to change the name, but if we come up with something good,
For sure.
So Keldor just popped into the chat room as well. He apparently missed the show, but
Okay.
he wishes you well, as I'm sure everyone does.
Absolutely. Yeah, well, it's been a pleasure and a real treat to do this podcast with you and raid with you and play this game with you and run a guild and all that good stuff. So
yeah, thanks. Likewise. It's been hard to the last couple of days to try and get everything. You know how it is. I feel like I'm missing a tooth.
Don't worry,
Yeah, well,
you'll
for
remember
you,
something tomorrow.
The rest of us just shut off our accounts. You have to takes you 5 days to clear out your banks and distribute all your wealth. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
You
No,
almost
I
need
actually got all that.
you need an executor to handle your affairs here.
Yeah. I signed WIC basically all of my worldly possessions and put most of it in the G Bank. So, anywho,
And it's been good, mooching off of some podcast fame. So thank you as well.
and thank you for stepping up and adding your voice at a time when there was only two, and really one of them was kind of getting tired.
Yeah. So I'm sure this won't be the end, and we are going to try to have everyone back for some sort of reunion show at some point.
Yep.
Yes.
And we'll try and be here next week, I think, right?
Yes.
Yeah, Arth
exactly.
and I will be here next week, and Allie too.
Yeah, we're gonna keep this together with duct tape. We might be looking for a new co-host. So
Yeah, and I think that would be good if we can make it to 200 as an example. I'm sure Frost and I will come back for that. We could have a big old reunion show. It'd be awesome.
That's what I said as I typed in the chat room, which you can't see listening. Yeah, there'll be that farewell show, and then of course we'll have to do the Where Are They Now show years from now, and see how we've all fallen on hard times,
Yeah.
ever since disbanding the podcast and our
Oh
lives.
god, yeah. It'd be funny. Every so often, people don't unsubscribe from iTunes things when they stop being updated. So for a while, over a year, I didn't do any call to auctions at all, and then before I resurfaced. And then I posted a little 30-second episode audio clip on iTunes, so people downloaded it and they listened to it. And it was just episode just kidding, but hey, I need help. I need somebody to do this for me. And I actually got a surprising number of people just out of the woodwork. It was holy crap! I forgot about this, and they don't unsubscribe. So if you do a Where Are They Now on iTunes, it would actually work. 20 years from now, people are probably still going to be using your Apple account unless Apple manages to screw up so bad. And they'll be like, Hunting Party podcast for Warcraft? I remember Warcraft.
yeah.
So anyways, Awesome. Well, it is 5 minutes past my hard stop, so I will see you guys soon and keep in touch for sure.
All right. Take care, my friend.
Folks.
Take care, buddy.
You know where to find us every Saturday.
Yep.
Absolutely.
This is the first episode of The Hunting Party. My name is Euripides from the OutDPS.com blog, and this is...
I am Dark Brew from the Brew Hall, and you can reach me at the brewhall.blogspot.com.
Cool. So this is our very first show, and we've got quite a show lined up so far because there's a lot going on these days. Let's get started.
In my traps, I never miss, 'cause I am hit capped. 'Cause I'm the hunter, not the marked. I'm the fighter, not the spark. I'm the kiter, not the kite. I'll top meters every fight. Landing hand game, dealing death. Just me, my gun, and my trusty bed. Now let's begin with Illidan, Osirian, and Kil'jaeden, Magdamar, Asgalor, Gruul, Cthulhu, and Razorgore, Onyxia to Ragnaros. Which one have we killed the most? Kel'Thuzad to Malagos. We even killed the Kama's ghost. Feels like we're getting close, all that running as a ghost. Yogg-Saron, Therian, Sartharian, Magtheridon, Sapuron, Lucifer to Sulfuron, Archimon, Amalon, Corellon, Algalon. Faction champions, the death toll rolling on and on. Gar, Veil, Executus, Chromagus, Jarexus, Murkill,